Welcome, friends,
to the How-To Heretic.
I'm Uncle Mark.
And I'm Uncle Dan.
And I'm Uncle Doug.
And this is your user's guide to life on the outside.
That's right. Leaving religion is the first step into a larger, better world.
But it can also be a scary world. Things work differently now.
Never fear, that's why we're here.
We're your audio uncles. And with help from good friends and experts in all sorts of fields,
we're going to share the stories and seek the knowledge to build a great life.
After all, you only get the one that we know of, so you better make the most of
it. Guys,
hey,
howdy ho!
We're back for another week. We're the quarantine 3.
As I hope all of our listeners are in self-imposed and hopefully not too dreadful quarantine.
Yes, just be like Napoleon on the Isle of Corsica. Or Elba. No, Elba is where they send him.
Elba,
sorry.
yeah.
He was from Corsica.
He was from Corsica.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen all of the roundup of all the people on social media who are spelling it CORN space TEEN?
Quarantine?
Quarantine.
I prefer that. The Q, there's a sinister nature to the Q. I don't like it.
I'm with you on that. That's true.
Let's go with the quarantine.
The quarantine.
Well, here we are from quarantine, and and we've got I think a lovely show, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what to expect on your next trip to the sun. and what customs are typical there, and what sort of fancy dress you should take. So
who's going to own the Airbnb when you get there?
Yeah, exactly.
And then I'm going to talk about a particular religious relic that is figuratively and literally holy.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, it is.
Okay, and
it's shrouded in mystery.
Ooh. And I'm going to piggyback off of both of you. And just dive into some more astronomical derp.
You're going to dive right not into the middle of a controversy.
Yeah.
Right? And I promise I'm not going to cry this week. I mean, we haven't gotten to the outro yet, but I think we're going to get there. And
we designed a show this week to try and take everyone's minds off of the swirling maelstrom of terror outside.
And thank you. We got so much wonderful correspondence from last week's show. Thank you, guys. We love you guys so much. It was very sweet. And Dan will cry on the next one. And
we're going to take it in rotation.
Yeah, exactly. So we still have merch. Our episodes are appearing on YouTube. All this shit's happening. We're trying to keep the light on for you, kids. So enjoy the show. Let's do it.
Let's do a show. Uncle Dan.
Hey.
Well, here in our fair Zion, the Mormon Church has effectively been canceled as a public domain, as a public entity.
Can we cancel it just as an organization?
Oh, if only we could.
Can we just stop them?
Yeah, I mean, even if we did, their historical derp would remain.
Yes, indeed. And their derp goes deep.
It does indeed, and it's really paying the bills of this podcast, so we appreciate it.
Well, it's true, and as Uncle Doug has leaked, has spoiled, this is going to be a bit of a Mormon segment, guys, or as they now insist on being called, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints at City Creek Mall, sponsored by Ensign Peak Advisors, LLC, a tax-exempt entity of Zion Securities, Inc., Russell M. Nelson, President, Prophet, and Corporate Chief Executive Officer presiding, in the name of Jesus Christ, amen. It's a mouthful, I know.
And you're supposed to say the whole thing.
The whole
every
thing.
Time.
Or you're a bigot. I know it's a mouthful, but let's just do what they ask. So maybe one day they'll pay some fucking taxes, okay? So the locally incorporated church / tax-exempt mall development company with the crazy long name is, well, pretty damn weird. You guys don't believe me? Why not give our segment on the Mormon Bigfoot, who also happens to be Cain? Which Cain, you ask? Why, the Cain from the first book of the Bible, dumbass. A listen in episode 62. Not enough weird for you? Why not give our segment on the utterly useless Book of Mormon compass with 2 needles and a text feature, the Liahona, a listen in episode 110? Still not silly enough? How about the very sacred and touchy subject of Mormon garments in episode 28? Don't think it's absurd enough yet? Well, geez, guys, then try the segment on Mormon phrenology, a.k.a. the patriarchal blessing in episode 31, or our segment on how living Mormon teenage bodies have been used to baptize both Hitler and Anne Frank. A listen in episode 123, or you could dig for crazy with the Dream Mind segment in episode 75, or our segment on the immortal Mayan pep boys of Mormon scripture, the three Nephites, in episode 39, and that all is just a taste of the root beer flavored cuckoo that is the church formerly known as Mormon.
Mark, slow down. You're going to give people the sense that somehow Mormonism is bizarre or strange or something.
I know, and Mitt Romney's done so much work to carefully paper over all of this. But if all that is just way too normcore for you, and you need your Latter-day Saint incorporated TM weirdness to be equipped with a warp drive to get you excited, then listen to Doug's segment on the sort of planet or kind of star the Mormon God lives on or next to or something in episode 18. You see, dear heretics, for a church founded in the 1820s, it was an outward-looking new faith. And when I say outward, I mean beyond the asteroid belt outward. We're talking outward to hidden places that the Hubble telescope has to squint to see. And for a weird little ad hoc Christian startup invented by a rapey dirt farmer, Mormonism has a very interplanetary cosmology. In this way, it shares some critical DNA with its weird American step twin of a religion, Scientology. Both religious corporate front groups believe that there are many, many, even countless planets inhabited by living beings, and both religions were inventions of money-mad American loons with delusions of extreme grandeur. And, like I said, both were very interested in life on other planets. Which brings us to today's wonderfully weird tale that Mormon Inc. would very much like y'all to never know or to please at least pre-forget. And that, dear friends, is that not only were, or maybe there are, men on the moon, but women as well, and those fine men and women are naturally Quakers. Or, more precisely, they just dress like them?
Yeah.
So let's go to the admittedly secondary, but still pretty credible source. In his diary, a highly revered early Mormon and close friend of the church's founder, Oliver B. or O.B. Huntington, recalled Prophet Joseph Smith's teaching on the subject in his journal.
He had to go by O.B. because the name Oliver was already taken in Mormon history.
That's true. It was another sacred name.
By Brother Cowdery.
So, and I quote O.B. Huntington, "The inhabitants of the moon are more of a uniform size than the inhabitants of the earth, being about 6 feet in height. They dress very much like Quaker style, the Quaker style, and are quite general in style or the one fashion of dress. They live to be very old, coming generally near 1,000 years."
Ooh.
This is the description of them as given by Joseph Smith, the seer, and he could see whatever he asked the Father in the name of Jesus to see. So ain't that something? So we don't think this was just a one-off by a crazy old coot. Here he is later quoted in an official church periodical. "Astronomers and philosophers have, from time immemorial until very recently, asserted that the moon was uninhabited and that it had no atmosphere, etc. But recent discoveries through the means of powerful telescopes have given scientists a doubt or two upon the old theory. Nearly all the general discoveries of men in the last half-century have, in one way or another, either directly or indirectly contributed to prove Joseph Smith to be a prophet." Narrator's voice, "No, they have not." We'll discuss how the Rosetta Stone, translated in 1822, sunk one of Mormonism's most important battleships another time. He continues, "As far back as 1837, I know that he said the moon was inhabited by men and women the same as this earth, and that they live to a greater age than we do, that they generally live to near 1,000 years. He described the men as averaging 6 feet in height and dressing quite uniformly in the Quaker style, blah, 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 blah. In my patriarchal blessing," he says, "given by the father of Joseph the prophet in Kirtland in 1837, I was told that I should preach the gospel before I was 21 years of age, that I should preach the gospel to the inhabitants upon the islands of the sea, and to the inhabitants of the moon, even the planet you can now behold with your eyes." So,
you know what? Go big or go home. Fucking swing for the fences.
Oh, it's going to get bigger, Doug. So what old O.B. Huntington was prattling on about there is the very sacred Mormon patriarchal blessing, which is I said we covered in episode 31, wherein a venerated church authority, in this case no less an elder than Joseph Smith Sr., the father of the philandering prophet himself, places his chapped hands on your bad haircut and receives divine revelation from Jesus or the Holy Spirit, telling the blessed what path their life should take should they be righteous, pay their tithing, and most importantly for the time this was given, never ever make a peep about coming home and finding their wife or daughter, or fuck it, both, married to Joseph Smith. Surprise! Anyway, here Obie Huntington makes it clear the moon and its sweet 1,000-year-old Quakers were very much on the Mormon minds of the day. But wait, there's more. Author and LDS historian Dan Vogel tracked down a few more patriarchal moon blessings. On 15 December 1836, Lorenzo Snow, a man who would later become prophet, received a blessing under the hand of Joseph Smith Sr., and it said, "Thou shalt have great faith, even like the brother of Jared. Thou shalt have power to translate thyself from one planet to another, power to go to the moon, if thou desire, power to preach to the spirits in prison, power like Enoch to translate thyself to heaven." Vogel found another account. Joseph Smith Sr. blessed Jonathan Crosby, saying, "Thou shalt be caught up to the third heavens and behold unspeakable things, whether in the body or out, and when thy mission is full there, thou shalt visit other worlds." And yet another. This quote is from future prophet Wilford Woodruff. On the 3rd of January, 1837, Zebedee Coltrane, great name, Zebedee, pronounced great blessings upon my head by the spirit of prophecy and revelation. Among other things, the blessing said that he should visit Kolob and preach to the spirits in prison, and that I should bring all of my friends or relatives forth from the terrestrial kingdom. These blessings are congruent with Joseph Smith's conviction that translated beings were ordained by God to be ministering angels unto many planets. So,
wow.
Yeah. So planets and the Quakers who abide upon them. And I got to say, why fucking Quakers? Why not Mormons? Or
well, because when you're trying to come up with like what they look like, because people are going to, if you say the Lord showed this to me, and then everybody's like, cool, what do they wear? You basically want to just keep it pretty minimal. You don't want to get too elaborate.
Right. Well, and that's the entirety of Joseph Smith's life is, when you're a prophet, you set yourself up for having to know everything.
Yeah.
So when someone asks you about a thing, you just got to wing it, right? Say, Quakers.
Yeah, but
is
Quakers,
what they look like. They aren't Quakers, but they look like them.
Why not like Asians or as I'm sure Joseph Smith would have said, Musliman? Like, why not something somewhat exotic or interesting?
He panicked. Well, I think they were in Ohio at the time, so Quakers were thereabouts, right?
That's what he could see.
He looked like that guy.
Exactly. You work with the medium you have, right? So anyway, interplanetary Quakers, or at least the Mormon notion of a populated universe, isn't just these folksy anecdotes, as our formerly Mormon listeners will know. And for never Mormon listeners, know that it is Mormon canon that every worthy man... Notice I did not say woman and women. And every prophet of the church and every male child that dies before the age of 8 gets their own real planet to become God the Father of in the way we understand the Christian God of this earth. That's a lot of fucking planets with people on them, you guys. Yeah. So here is a passage from, and I alluded to this a little bit earlier, a supremely problematic book in the Mormon canon, the Book of Abraham, that is found in an official church scripture called the Pearl of Great Price.
It's such a good book.
Oh, the pearl is so expensive. So quoting Abraham 3:5, "And the Lord saith unto me, the planet which is the lesser light, lesser than that which is to rule the day, even the night, is above or greater than that upon which thou standest in point of reckoning. For it moveth in order more slow. This is in order because it standeth above the earth upon which thou standeth. Therefore the reckoning of its time is not so many as to its number of days and of months and of years." Blah, blah, fucking blah. So that is God saying to Abraham, it's actually Joseph Smith making it up, but bear with me, that the moon is a superior planet to Earth. That particular cigar is going to explode again many, many years later. More on that in just a tick. So the moon is superior somehow to the much larger, life-sustaining, water-covered home to actual Quakers, planet Earth. Got it. That is what Mormons believe. So, from Dan Vogel's research, I found a terrific old article from the Latter-day Saints Millennial Star. Not only is it very much an official church organ, it was the nearly 200-year-old church's longest-running publication for over 100 years until the Ensign took it over in the 70s. So, a little fun Ensign fact, everybody. In this article from 1882 titled, "Are the Worlds Inhabited?" an unnamed author gets pretty heated about anyone daring to contradict the 50-year-old claim apparently made by Joseph Smith that sturdy, long-living Protestants grow oats on the Sea of Tranquility. They write, to the question, is the moon inhabited? Astronomers have returned a definitive negative answer. It has been claimed that the moon is a dead world without atmosphere, without vegetation, without moisture, and consequently without inhabitants. Scientists tell the story of the moon's decadence as positively as if they'd seen it dry up and die. They differ as to the time it took to breathe its last and the date of its final doom. But of the fact, they're as positive as a heretic burning theologian was of his dogmas at the time of the Inquisition. This guy's hat up.
He knows we can see the moon, right?
What's that?
He knows we can see it, right?
He continues. They continue. The theory of a defunct moon is all moonshine, a sort of scientific lunacy. The calculations and deductions of Professor Proctor, who told us in this city that the moon was subject to such scorching heats and intense frosts because of the absence of the atmosphere that no life of any kind could endure the temperature for a moment, were all baseless and without value. The stereoscope and the telescope, it seems, both bear witness now to the error of the astronomers. If there is a lunar atmosphere, there may be lunar vegetation, lunar animals, and many, many more than one man in the moon.
I mean, I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, it's kind of there, right? So it continues a little bit later. There is another thing that those scientists who pronounce certain planets unfit for the support of human life do not seem to fully consider. That is, the possibility men and animals, plants may exist there with constitutions different in some respects from those of this earth, and so able to endure the peculiar conditions existing on those other planets. Yeah, stupid scientists, your dang job is to wildly speculate on every conceivable cockamamie idea in support of Joseph Smith's claims that above average height, superannuated, agrarian Anabaptists live in Cratertown. then back some math or qubits or some shit up to prove it, you dumb scientists. So, more than 50 years after Joseph Smith may or may not have said, Quaker-looking motherfuckers live on the moon, an official church publication is being pretty damned huffy about the gall of science to cast doubt on the claim.
What year was that written?
1882.
Okay.
So there were pretty decent telescopes, especially for looking at something as close as the moon, right?
Yeah.
So now if you go to Mormon apologetic websites like Fair Mormon, and please don't. The world is depressing enough at the moment. You don't need that. But if you do, you can see they try to write this whole moon Quaker hubbub off as the ramblings of crazy old O.B. Huntington, even though his stories were published in 2 official church periodicals, and there are multiple accounts of the prophet's own father giving patriarchal blessings to future moon missionaries who would become prophets themselves, and also the above article in the Millennial Star Prophecy, prophecy shaming scientists and astronomers for doubting Joseph Smith. So sure, fine. I mean, that's just a bunch of sources, but okay. Mormons never believe there are plain-spoken, kindly, anti-war Protestants on the surface of the moon, according to our desperate apologist friends. Except,
Skun-dun-dun.
this silliness of the infallible prophet Joseph Smith's revelation of lunar Protestants could have died down when O.B. Huntington shuffled off to Kolob himself, or with the last cri de lune from one of several official church publications, but it didn't. To paraphrase the importance of being earnest, Dan, you'll be familiar with this one. One infallible prophet fucking up extraplanetary Quaker predictions is a misfortune, but 2 infallible prophets doing it looks like carelessness. Yes, the second prophet of the church, Brigham Young, Mormonism's Joseph Stalin, had just had to open his frowny yap and double down on the extraterrestrial Christian pacifist hilarity. saying this. Who can tell us of the inhabitants of this little planet that shines of an evening called the moon? When you inquire about the inhabitants of that sphere, you find that the most learned are as ignorant in regard to them as the most ignorant of their fellows. So it is in this regard to the inhabitants of the sun. Do you think it is inhabited? I rather think it is. Do you think there is any life there? No question of it. It was not made in vain. That's right. Brigham saw Joseph's moon pilgrim fantasy and raised him the motherfucking sun.
That's right.
The sun, you guys. You know that thing that can burn you severely in a few hours, even though it's 93 million miles away, with a surface temperature of 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit? That sun.
Wait, Uncle Mark, don't forget about the alternate constitutions of the people.
There's some pretty high performance Quakers up there. So,
God, I was hoping they would be Mennonites.
Are these the ravings of a lunatic? Why, yes, they are. Did they also become the official position of the church at the time vis-a-vis the sun, the moment they were spoken by the prophet in his official capacity as the mouthpiece of God on earth? Yes, they were also that, as they were delivered by Brigham Young from the pulpit of the Salt Lake City Tabernacle on the holiest day of the Mormon year, Pioneer Day, July 24th, 1870.
Amazing.
Not in some random overheard conversation or from a secondhand source. The infallible prophet continued, if the sun was made to give light to those who dwell upon it and to other planets, and so will this earth when it is celestialized. Oh. Every planet in the first rude organic state receives not the glory of God upon it, but it is opaque. But when celestialized, every planet that God brings into existence is a body of light, but not till then. So, remember, it's very important to remember, guys, this super genius has not one, not two, but 3 universities named after him. Anyway,
I would imagine standing in the audience of that conference, listening to him talk about the people on the sun, is like that scene in Bananas where the new dictator of San Marcos has completely lost his mind, and everyone in the audience is just like, "Oh fuck!"
Everyone under the age of 16 is now 16.
The official language of San Marcos is now Swedish. So anyway,
what's really delightful to me is not like the postulating on life on these things, but human life. Like these are people. It's not like there may be certain microscopic elements that no people.
Yeah,
You'll know them by their big broad brim hats and bonnets.
Yeah, and their sturdy agrarian ways. So, anyway, I look forward to NASA contacting these unkillable high-temperature solar Quakers any day now.
Yeah.
Remember, these quotes from Brigham Young, just like those from O.B. Huntington, are not from so-called anti-Mormon sources. Young's quotes can be found in Volume 13, page 271 of the Mormon Hadith, the Journal of Discourses. The texts where, as Uncle Doug has said, the true nature of Mormonism can be found. Now, remember when I quoted the Book of Abraham from the Pearl of Great Price, where God told Abraham that the moon is a superior planet to Earth? Fast forward to the year 1957. The not yet but soon-to-be Mormon prophet Joseph Fielding Smith, taking that passage from the Book of Abraham very seriously, wrote, the Savior said that preceding his coming there would be signs in the heavens. No doubt there will be appearances of commotion among the heavenly bodies. We are informed by prophecy that the earth will reel to and fro. This will make it appear like the stars are falling. The sun will be darkened and the moon look like blood. All of these wonders will take place before Christ comes. Naturally, the wonders in the heavens that man has created will be numbered among the signs which have been predicted. The airplanes, the guided missiles, and the man-made planets that revolve around the earth. Keep in mind, however, that such man-made planets belong to this earth, and it is doubtful that man will ever be permitted to make any instrument or ship to travel through space and visit the moon or any distant planet.
Oof.
1957, guys.
57, okay. Great.
Now, maybe this was this written statement preceded the launch of the USSR's Sputnik satellite, but as it launched in October of that year, not by much. But let's follow he that is so wise in the ways of science and Mormon authority with divine power of discernment, Joseph Fielding Smith, a little further out to the thin end of the cosmological ice, shall we? In an official church speech in 1961, I couldn't find the day and the month, unfortunately, Smith, taking that silly passage from the Book of Abraham embarrassingly a little bit too seriously, said the following, and I quote, "We will never get a man into space. This earth is man's sphere, and it was never intended that he should get away from it. The moon is a superior planet to the earth, and it was never intended that man should go there." And he concludes, "You can write it down in your books that this will never happen."
What year was that, Mark?
Okay, again, not super sure what month super genius Joseph Fielding Smith said this, but President John F. Kennedy declared our moonshot in his famous speech on May 25th of that same year.
Wow.
And just 3 weeks later, well, we, or more accurately, the godless Soviets, did indeed put a man into space. The handsome Yuri Gagarin on April 12th. So much pie, so little face, Joseph Fielding Smith. And it was not even a decade later, on July 20th, 1969, that we did indeed put a man on the moon. Yeah. 2 of them, in fact. And to rub a little more moon salt into dum-dum Joseph Fielding Smith's self-inflicted wound, the first liquid consumed by man on the moon was not of a local Quaker origin, but consecrated Catholic sacramental wine sent by a priest with the devoutly Catholic Buzz Aldrin. And we know how much the Catholics of the day, the Mormons of the day, love the Catholics.
Put that in your book, Fielding Smith.
So, and surely, guys, official Mormondom, deeply embarrassed not only by the original absurdities of moon and sun Quaker pronouncements, but also by Joseph Fielding Smith's hilariously unforced errors, waving his stupid scriptures at every passing rocket. Surely they backbenched that hapless nitwit who couldn't accurately predict tomorrow's sunrise, right? Nope. They said, hey, this guy seems like prophetic material. Let's put him in charge. And they did. Just 8 short months after NASA made a fool of him. Oh, Mormonism. Promise you'll never stop being wrong about every damn thing. So to end, let's dip a pinky toe back into the ocean of sad tears that is Mormon apologetics. On his apologist website, 1 Minute Answers, apologist Stephen R. Gibson spends several minutes chasing down every tiny discrepancy he could find to try to discredit O.B. Huntington and to make this whole Moon Quaker thing just go away. But then, for no apparent reason, he makes this astounding reattempt at a whole new excuse for Joseph Smith's idiotic claim he just tried to prove didn't happen, surely turning an ankle in the process. And I quote, this is amazing. Another aspect of the matter needs to be considered. At the present time, man has no scientific or revealed knowledge of whether or not there are inhabitants on Earth's moon. Now, granted, this came from a website. The fact that a handful of astronauts didn't see any inhabitants in the tiny area they viewed when they landed on the moon decades ago certainly gives no definitive information, any more than visitors to Earth who might land in barren Death Valley would have any idea of the billions of inhabitants elsewhere. That's right, guys. The astronauts didn't land on every fucking square inch of the moon with its deadly radiation and total lack of breathable atmosphere. So how could they prove there weren't Quaker-looking types over the next crater?
Oh my God.
I call it the Quaker of the Gaps fallacy.
The Quaker of the crater.
It's the Mormons' ability to score own goals that's amazing to me.
Why did he even do that? So, and to your point, Dan, this entire segment is a perfect description of the infinite fractal pretzel Mormons must twist themselves into on a constant basis in order to make all this balderdash somehow the truth. Yeah. I couldn't really find anywhere that the church ever unofficialed either Joseph Smith's or Brigham Young's prophetic pronouncements about extraterrestrial Anabaptists.
How can they?
Yeah,
well,
you can't. You can't start flicking cards out of the. Yeah,
like most historical clusterfucks have had to deal with, and they are legion. They just one day stop talking about it, then wait for 2 generations of Mormons to die out, and then ta-da!
Well, and it would have worked, too, if it hadn't been for that pesky internet.
There you go. Exactly right.
That should be the motto of the Mormon Church right now.
So that's the Moonquakers, guy. It was a
God.
much deeper rabbit hole than I expected, and the Mormon apologists are in a fucking froth to try to make it go away.
And you know what? Like you look at the sun and tell me there's no Quakers up there.
Look hard.
Donald Trump took a good hard look at it. Maybe he can tell us.
I think somebody needs to challenge him to try and really, really see them.
Yeah, I want some just crazy hot oatmeal. That's what I want. So, anyway, that's the Moonquakers, guys. Still kind of technically Mormon canon.
Yeah, there you go.
So enjoy.
Stick that in your books, everybody, and let's move along.
Let's move on.
Ta-ta.
Hey, Uncle Mark.
Yes, sir.
You know, I just reported on that other show I do, Thank God I'm Atheist, about how the Museum of the Bible had a whole bunch of Dead Sea Scrolls, antiquities that are very, very important until they turn out to entirely be faked and they're just forgeries entirely.
Yeah, that's a pity because I know that they paid ISIS good money for a lot of that stuff.
They did. They paid a whole bunch of terrorists some millions.
If you guys don't know that, that's a true. That's
true.
Your Hobby Lobby money, what the glue gun you bought, that money went into the hands of the Caliphate, which sold Hobby Lobby Christian dopes a bunch of fake artifacts. I don't think they bought the Dead Sea Scrolls from them, but I went to the Museum of the Bible when I was in D.C. last year.
Did you?
Yeah. Yeah.
How was it?
Anyway,
well, I didn't go in because they wanted $22.
yeah, fuck that.
Yeah, fuck
Does
that
it at
shit.
least come with a chicken sandwich or something?
Yeah, probably.
Anyway,
A fish and a loaf.
Uncle Doug.
A loaf and a fish. You get a loaf and a fish, yeah.
There you go. I like that. Uncle Doug, you wouldn't know anything about antiquities.
Do you peddle in
biblically
artifacts,
important?
Doug?
Well, I want to talk about one specific one that is equal parts stupid and fake. But let's start out with the church that owns it. As you, dear uncles, know, the Catholic Church does not like to air out their dirty laundry in public, whether it be the Mangala levels of human torture in Spain in the 16th century, or the institutionalized slavery in Irish laundries in the 19th century, or serial child rape everywhere yesterday. They prefer a closed-door approach to their scandals. However, every rule has an exception, as is the case with one particular piece of dirty laundry that they are all too happy to put on display. I'm talking, of course, about the Shroud of Turin. This obvious forgery and laughably silly relic is such low-hanging fruit on the derp tree that I was surprised to discover that we haven't talked about it on the show yet.
Yeah, we haven't. Yeah.
In our defense, there are many derp trees in the derp forest, and just like the arm of a starfish or Eastern European trophy wives, every time you lop one off, another one grows back in its place.
Oh my God.
But let us pluck this fruit and toss it in the bin where it belongs.
Wait a minute. Are you breaking news on this show? Is Melania Trump a starfish?
She has the eyes of a starfish.
Count the arms.
She probably has the same legitimate visa as a starfish, but go on.
It would definitely explain her Christmas aesthetic. For those out there who do not know what the Shroud of Turin is, and I doubt there's many of you, it is said to be the burial shroud of one Jesus of Nazareth that he was wrapped in after he met the business end of the Roman Empire. The shroud has a very faint but definitely recognizable imprint of a human man that, according to believers, was etched into the cloth at the moment of the resurrection. We will definitely talk about that. To us non-believers, the shroud looks like...
sorry, Doug. In art school, I had a semester of resurrection etching. We had lithography and
you had resurrection
making, but that was it's really cool. It really does have an effect on fabric.
Do you want to come back to my dorm room and see my shroud?
Yeah, exactly. To us non-believers, the shroud looks like what I assume all of Joaquin Phoenix's bed sheets look like, even after just one night. So, the shroud currently resides, very coincidentally, in the city of Turin, in northern Italy. This region was the hardest hit region on Earth by the coronavirus, until, of course, we stole that honor for ourselves only days ago. We're number one.
USA.
We're number A. US 1. Oddly, the Catholic Church has never formally endorsed or rejected the shroud as legitimate. However, it has been a favorite tourist attraction and therefore revenue generator, so they definitely give it a knowing nod. In 1958, Pope Pius XII approved it as part of the devotion of the Holy Face of Jesus, an honor usually reserved for more glutinous mediums, and Pope John Paul II called it, quote, a mirror of the gospel, which is a misconstrual of what a mirror is that could only be made by someone that didn't have a reflection. So, let's start off with the history of the shroud and its rather remarkable journey to the modern day. Then we'll talk about the shroud itself, because that's where the real pay dirt is. Let's start out with the fact that in ancient Judea, as in pretty much the rest of the world, then and now, there were burial rites and rituals. The ancient Jewish burial rites were very similar to those of other peoples in the area, although there's not a ton of sources. Bodies were typically washed and wrapped in cloth, and although digging graves in the Middle East would seem to be a recession-proof industry, the rocky terrain is not ideal. So in many cases, bodies were placed in caves or catacombs, and then the family would return a year or so later to collect the bones, I guess to throw in a pot to get yourself a stew going, baby. This does require a quick detour into the New Testament. Sorry. To review the 4 accounts of the burial of Jesus. Don't worry, they all adhere to Uncle Doug's first rule of the Bible and are mercifully short. The accounts in Mark, Matthew, and Luke are all very similar. The body of Jesus is wrapped in linen, and his body is placed in a tomb or sepulcher, which is a stupid word. A stone is placed in front, and both Marys were there to witness. So John takes a slightly different and not terribly helpful tack. In his account, Nicodemus brings about 75 pounds of myrrh and aloes, which they smear all over Jesus' corpse. Before
There's so much fucking
pounds?
ointment in the Bible.
75 pounds of myrrh and aloe. They slather it all over Jesus and wrap him in strips of linen and then stick him in the sepulcher.
Like a mummy.
They turned him into the mummy.
Yeah. Basically, exactly. And there's 2 problems with this account for the historicity of the shroud. It claims that there were several strips of cloth rather than one giant piece.
Right.
And can you imagine the Jackson Pollock level mess you would be left with after taking a recently perforated corpse, slathering it with 75 pounds of myrrh and aloe, and then wrapping it in strips of thin linen? Imagine how ghastly.
God, what an afternoon. You wouldn't soon forget that.
Interestingly, the only account that mentions the linen cloth in the story of the resurrection is John. In this account, upon returning to the tomb, Peter and John see a pile of linen strips that they had used to cover Jesus in one corner of the tomb, and the napkin, yes, napkin, that was over the face in another corner. I guess we're supposed to infer a naked, stanking Jesus stumbling around his tomb with a napkin on his noggin. But anyway, the biggest
classic gag. Classic movie gag.
The biggest tragedy of all, aside from the fact that we are not wasting our time talking about the napkin of Turin, is that the relic itself is not even supported consistently by the book it's based on. But I digress. There is no more mention in the Bible of this holy cum rag, and where it went and with who is shrouded in history. Thank you. Thank you. And although everything Jesus related has been faked and sold over the centuries, including countless burial shrouds, this specific shroud does not show up again until the all-important year of 1390. You see, it was in the seminal year that the shroud makes its first certain historical appearance, when Bishop Pierre de Arcas wrote about it in a memorandum to Pope Clement VII. And what was it that Pierre needed to tell the 7th Clement about the soon-to-be sacred shroud? That it was an obvious forgery, and the forger had confessed. That's right.
Are you serious?
The very first historical mention of the Shroud of Turin was by a bishop to a pope stating it was a fake.
No.
Wow.
That's true.
That's fantastic.
Isn't that crazy?
That is awesome.
So according to legend, it was possessed by Byzantine emperors until the sack of Constantinople in 1204 and found its way into the house of French knight Geoffroy de Charnay, who died at the Battle of Poitiers in 1356. Be impressed with my pronunciation. However, the shroud remained in the house of Charnay until 1543, which is where our old friend Pierre first came to see it in 1390. Of course, if Pierre is to be believed, the man who forged it was still alive in 1390, so the shroud could be no more than decades old at the time. From then on, the journey of the shroud is actually very well documented, mostly because it remained the property of the House of Savoy until 1983, when it was gifted to the Holy See. Yeah. I'll only mention a couple more historical dates that are relevant. In 1532, the shroud suffered its first major damage when a fire broke out in the chapel of Chambéry The shroud was folded in a silver box, which partially melted and burned the familiar holes you see in the cloth today. It was moved to the city of Turin in 1578, where it has remained to this day. Repairs were attempted by the Poor Clare nuns in 1694, wherein they sewed patches of similar linen into the holes caused by the fire. Not as a fake, they were trying to extend the life of the shroud.
Oh, right.
I only mention this because it will come up again. The shroud now resides in the chapel of the Holy Shroud, or the Cappella della Sacra Sindone, a Baroque-style Roman Catholic cathedral built in 1668 by Guarino Guarini, which in English translates to gullible gullible. It's quite beautiful. The cathedral's quite beautiful because you know what they say, if it ain't Baroque, don't fix it.
Jesus.
Oh, man.
Hold for applause. And so that's the journey of the shroud. Now let's talk about the shroud itself. The shroud is a simple linen sheet with a 3-to-1 herringbone twill composed of flax fibrils. Whatever you're thinking as far as its size, you are not thinking big enough. The shroud is 3 feet 7 inches wide and 14 feet 5 inches long.
Yeah.
If you want to know what that is in meters, do your own damn research. This is America, at least at the time of this record.
Yeah.
Down the middle of the shroud, you can clearly see, if a bit faintly, the image of a naked man. Now, before you ask if you can see the holy peen, the answer is no, Mark. His hands are very conveniently crossed over his groin. The image is of a man with long hair, a mustache, and a beard. The man is around 6 feet tall and muscular. And before you ask, no, it's not me. Now, here's what I absolutely love about the shroud. There are 2 images. I'm trying to describe this correctly so people can kind of get an image of this. There are 2 images on the shroud, the front and the back of the body. The top of the front view of the image is mere inches away from the top of the view of the back of the body. This means that when they buried Jesus, they laid this sheet out, placed him on one end of it, and then folded it at the head back over his body.
Yeah, it's like a banana peel.
Yeah, but not wrapped around him, because you can imagine that would distort the image if it was wrapped around his body. Now, if that was the case, there are only 2 possible ways that these images would come out so symmetrical. 1, Jesus was in fact 2-dimensional. Or 2, you know when you first get into a hotel bed and you have to spend a couple of minutes kicking out the bottom and sides so you can breathe? I love the idea of Jesus coming back from the dead on a hotel bed that had been made with him in it by a particularly mean-spirited hotel worker with no turn-down service.
That's right.
Those are the only 2 ways the image can come out so clean. So, and speaking of the image, it has always been the belief that the image of Jesus in the shroud was burned into the fabric at the moment of resurrection. Before we go down that rabbit hole, let's talk about the idea of the image itself. When you take a photograph, what the photographic film is reacting to is light reflecting off your subject. What's photographic film? Ask your parents. The image in the shroud, the image in the shroud is so obviously meant to be the depiction of a subject in reflected light, not the source of the light, right? If you shine a flashlight at a camera, what you get is not a nice still life of the flashlight, but the distorted, washed-out blur of the light itself. So just putting that out there.
You get a hot spot.
Yeah, exactly. But because we live in the dumbest of timelines, the self-evident stupidity of this forgery is not enough, and scientists have had to step in to analyze the provenance of the shroud with predictable results. So much ink has been wasted on this thing that there is even a specific term for the study of the Shroud of Turin, syndenology, if you can believe that.
Really?
Yeah, and it's a whole field, and it's...
What does that mean, syndenology?
Well, sindone is sheet in Italian, so sheet science.
I'm a sheetologist.
Yeah.
So
According
dumb.
to believers, the shroud was made about 2,000 years ago in Palestine, wrapped around a bleeding human body that sparkled for a second, emitting some form of radiation which marked the shroud with his image. These are all testable hypotheses. So scientists took 3 main avenues of investigation: chemical and historical material analysis, biological and medical forensics, and image analysis. And bizarrely, the church has actually allowed for a surprising amount of research into the shroud, something they probably regret now, including allowing 2 very small samples of the cloth to be taken out of one of the corners for various forms of analysis. So let me run through the evidence refuting the authenticity of the shroud, and then I'll review the evidence supporting it. Cool?
All right. Yeah.
Okay, so
I feel like one of those categories is going to be significantly longer than the other.
Truly, and believe me, I am paraphrasing. So radiocarbon dating puts the creation of the cloth with 95% confidence to 1260 to 1390 CE. Apologists have tried to argue that the addition of the patches by the Poor Clare nuns threw this sample off, but since the samples were taken for analysis were not taken from the patches, and because carbon is not contagious, these claims have been thoroughly refuted. So, art historians have determined that the depiction on the shroud is of an 11th century Gothic version of Jesus. Microscopic analysis of the colored parts of the shroud determined that they were made by plain old pigment. Analysis of the fabric determined that its complex 3-to-1 herringbone weave was very unlikely to have been prominent in ancient Judea, but maybe. Analysis of the supposed bloodstains were frustratingly inconclusive. However, at least to my mind, the presence of blood on the shroud is only proof that somebody either bled on or put blood on it.
Right.
It's not proof of anything else. The blood in my underwear right now is proof of nothing but Chipotle. So, analysis of the dirt and pollen from the shroud were also inconclusive, doing nothing to prove it's a fake, but likewise doing nothing to prove that it's real. Anatomical forensic analysis has determined that the proportions of the image are more consistent with Gothic art than with an actual human, on top of the fact that a dead body lying supine cannot actually cover its genitalia, so the arm and hands on the shroud are elongated to prevent a peep at the divine dangly bits. So,
Right.
Can I just say, on that point, that I have looked at this thing so many times and it never looks like a real person.
No, it's
it totally looks like a
preposterously
painting
fake.
of a person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, the real person that it looks like is Ron Perlman from the 1980s version of the Beauty and the Beast TV show. It doesn't. Wow. It looks nothing like a
You're
regular
right.
human.
You know what? You're completely right.
And I'm so embarrassed at how easily I conjured up that image.
Yeah, or an emaciated Father Christmas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as for the provenance of the shroud itself, we will never know, but apologists maintain that no technique existed at the time of Jesus or the 14th century that could account for the image on the shroud. This is, of course, hooey. Various scientists and artists have recreated strikingly similar images with several different techniques using nothing that wasn't available in the 14th century. One thing that scientists have not been able to do is create such an image on linen with any known form of radiation. And yes, I did say known form. It seems that the god of this particular gap has been relegated to beyond the ultraviolet. So, now let's review the evidence that has been unearthed and remains unrefuted by the Shroud of Turin Research Project, or, and this is true, STURP. Let's see here. Okay, carry the one. Yep, nothing. Not a thing.
Wow.
However, and in spite of the fact that every type of science and analysis that has been thrown at the shroud has utterly destroyed the shroud's authenticity, or at best been inconclusive, and in spite of the fact that 4 churches in France and 3 more in Italy all claim to have their own burial shrouds of Jesus, the Shroud of Turin is more popular than ever. For example, the shroud is not always on display due to its delicate nature and apparent desire to be consumed by fire. It is stored in a temperature and climate-controlled box that is a mixture of 95% argon and 5% oxygen to extend its life. But from time to time, it is brought out for tourists and pilgrims to see. In 2010,
you know what you need to preserve your miracle is a lot of science.
Exactly. Exactly. In 2010, it was put on display between April 10th and May 23rd, and more than 2 million people went to see it. So,
In 5 weeks?
Yeah. 2 million people shuffled through that church. So that's it. Let's put this dirty diving bed or this dirty bed sheet in the washer and move on, eh?
That's the whole thing, huh?
That's it.
So I'm a bearded and mustachioed fellow. So if I were to suddenly emit like a very powerful gamma ray when laying in my hotel bed, would my mustache and beard also be recorded on the emulsion on the sheet?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. It's so silly.
It's so
the
silly.
claim is amazing. I love it.
It's so silly. It's funny that we really have not delved deeply into the morass of Catholic miracles, have we?
Just a bit.
Yeah, just a bit. I think this might be our first major takedown.
It's
You're on
fertile
blast.
ground, let me tell you.
Universal Church.
Yeah, Fatima,
Motherfuckers.
we're coming for you.
Coming for you, Fatima. All right. Well, with that, let's shuffle on.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Fellas,
Hello.
Oh,
hey, we are here sort of, as we said at the top of the show, we're holed up in our respective holes. None of us seeing each other for
true.
weeks now.
Yeah, true.
And it just feels rough. But we're putting this stuff out for the listeners, and the listeners are responding. And some of them apparently haven't lost their wages and have decided to give us a little bit of their money.
Yay.
Which I think is amazing.
Yes,
I love
it's
you for
amazing.
So we got some folks to thank. So we'll just start with thank you to Melissa, John, Tracy, Mia, Tyler, Aaron, Christian. Thanks to Jennifer Allen.
Jess, a dear friend of ours. Thank you so much, Jennifer Allen, for doing that.
jeez.
You're amazing.
Yes.
Thanks to Jim and Uncle Mark.
Yes.
You need to provide a holy saint, a patron for our friend Michael.
For Michael. Okay, well, Michael, of course, in these trying times, you are going to need the intercession of Saint Ramekin of Norwalk, which is a lovely Los Angeles suburb, and he is the patron saint of garbage tornadoes, endocrine redundancies, and also, of course, the guys who try to sell you subwoofers out of their moving vans when you're in traffic. So those guys, right?
Hey, everybody needs a saint.
Yeah, everybody. Everybody's covered, right?
Well, you have to pay for it if you want to get covered. If you want the good coverage,
Yes.
you gotta pony up.
This is how we and the Catholic Church are exactly the same.
Exactly.
It's a fee for service, motherfuckers. So if you want a service, you got to pay.
We learn from the best, and
Yes.
if you want indulgences, we will grant those too, but they cost a lot.
Yeah.
So thank you guys so much for all of your support. If you can't afford to support us, we are so okay with that.
Yes.
But you can still go and find a way to give us 5 stars on the things on iTunes or
Yep.
Stitcher or wherever you can. If you give us 4 stars, you're garbage.
Yeah, you're just trash.
5 is the only answer, so do that.
There is a right answer, guys.
And and we're giving it to you. It's like cheating on the test.
Yeah.
And so with that, let's move on.
Move on.
Moving on.
Uncle Doug, do you ever feel like you are? This is a dumb question. I can't believe I'm even asking this. That you are the center of the universe.
Every day.
Yeah, I realize that, and I think we need to talk to Dan to see if he can talk some sense into you.
Don't take this away from me. I don't have a lot right now.
Don't worry, Doug. I'll give you plenty of apologetics for why you are, in fact, the center of the universe.
I appreciate
excellent.
that.
I actually launched into my topic today while looking at a website called, quote, and you guys might need to go there, crossonthemoon.com,
Oh, boy.
which is exactly what you think it is. They want to put a cross on the moon. It's,
Oh my God! Really?
They've been raising money for it. I don't think they met their goal, but
That's a
and
pity.
it's an old site, but it's there and it's still hanging out.
Jesus. I mean, at least if you burn a pile of money, you can warm your hands over it.
So yeah, but what's funny is I was sort of poking around on their site, and they wrote about Galileo. And in a way that actually made more sense than it should have. And I was just sort of, that got me thinking about Galileo, and that got me thinking about heliocentrism,
Yes.
which is the crazed notion that maybe all the things in our solar system rotate around the sun and not the Earth. Anyway, I will say this. I did a whole lot of reading and went down a whole bunch of rabbit holes, as is my wont. And this is my second run at writing this, because I like science and history, and the first run kept getting longer and longer and was threatening to become a textbook. So here's a quick synopsis of what I wrote before, or I'll attempt that anyway. everybody was wrong about the way the universe worked for a long time. The cosmology of the Bible was laid out in the first chapter of the first book, which was basically a flat earth with a giant glass bowl over it and a bunch of lights stuck in the bowl that rotated around the earth. That was basically the prevailing view for millennia, and not just with ancient Jews. Ancient Chinese, Indian, American peoples all had roughly the same assessment, which I think is an understandable assessment. You look up at the sky, you see all the things rotating around you. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Then a Greek guy named Aristotle popularized the notion of a spherical Earth. And then a Polish dude named Copernicus figured out that we were orbiting the sun and not the other way around. And suddenly all of cosmology was flipped on its ear. Surprisingly, a lot of the mucky-mucks of the church during Copernicus's time were on board with his new model. But he was still so scared that he didn't publish it until he was crazy old, and he died before anybody could read it and get mad. So most treated his theory as an interesting notion until an Italian dude named Galileo Galilei, the man so nice they named him twice, went, "Hey, you guys, that guy was right." And then he was tried for heresy.
Yeah.
Why heresy, you may ask? Well, it ain't just Genesis that the earth-centric Christians were basing their ideas on. Psalms. Psalms.
The book
There's
of
an
Palms.
S in there.
The Book of Palms.
The Book of Palms it was a great casino back in the day. Anyway,
It was.
the Book of Psalms 93 says, quote, "The world is also established that it cannot be moved." Psalms 96 says exactly the same thing. First Chronicles 16:30 says, "Fear before him all the earth, the world also shall be stable, that it be not moved." If you were in Salt Lake City a couple weeks ago, you know that's not true. Ecclesiastes 1 verse 5 borrows from Hemingway, saying, "The sun also rises, and the sun goes down, and hastens to his place where he arose." So their idea was the earth stays put, everything else moves. But, this was sort of the idea of the idiots of the past.
Yes,
so when
the
that was
geocentric
challenged,
model.
right, when that was challenged, well, let's just say Galileo's life didn't end great. Here's the thing, though. When I first thought of doing heliocentrism as my topic, I thought I'd be focusing on the 1600s. But when I started digging, I realized that Galileo and his trial and persecutions weren't the real story. The real story isn't the idiots of the past. We have way better idiots right here in the present. So, listen, the world is known for hundreds of years that the sun was the center of our solar system. Every observation of the stars since then has confirmed it beyond any doubt. But that damned Bible still exists, and there are large groups of people who still think it's supposed to be taken literally. That's not a very smart thing, but there they are. So, what do we do with an ancient book that has zero understanding of how anything works that we know for sure is true? Well, how do we square that with a whole bunch of very smart people figuring out brand new stuff on a semi-constant basis? I think we should turn to the current gold standard of turd polishing, the pinnacle of Academia Moronica, Answers in Genesis.
Yes, our dear friends at Answers in Genesis.
Indeed. The impressive organization that brought us Ken Ham's giant ode to the impossible, the Ark Encounter. The group totally dedicated to twisting and contorting biblical passages until it's kind of possible that they actually do fit in with modern science if you ignore the right stuff and deny other stuff and squint real hard.
Yeah.
A lot, yeah. So now, before we get into their weeds, I have to warn you, these people are easily confused. So we have to wade through a lot of bizarre extraneous stuff to get to their answers. For example, in an article about Earth's placement in the cosmos called, quote, "The Center of the Universe," on the Answers in Genesis website, you might find yourself understandably befuddled when the first subheading is, quote, "Evolution." And yet, Answers in Genesis is not the only place you'll find this startling little entanglement. All over the web, Bible literalists can't seem to use the term Big Bang without also mentioning Darwin. It's the weirdest thing. I guess these are the two findings of science that most distress them, so they squish them together and don't worry about the fact that they have literally nothing whatsoever to do with each other and aren't even in related scientific fields.
You know what the connective tissue is?
What?
The Jews.
Totally. Guys, we're just going to end there, right?
You blew it wide open. Speaking of which, the article that I'm referring to in Answers in Genesis was written by a German guy named Dr. Werner Gitt. No, I didn't make that up. So there you go. Dr. Gitt.
Get me Dr. Gitt.
Dr. Gitt. You know, guys, listen, Ken Ham, Mr. Ham, Dr. Gitt, if you're just making up names, just do some Googling first, all right?
Get me Professor Dolt.
Exactly.
It's all own goals all the time.
Yeah.
I don't actually know if he's German. Anyway, Dr. Werner Gitt.
Probably.
Yeah.
Werner, probably.
He's not Korean, I can tell you that.
He starts his Answers in Genesis essay with the word evolution, then proceeds not to mention anything having to do with evolution whatsoever. He just says that, quote, when one considers the consequences of the Big Bang hypothesis, like, and he's mentioning here an Austrian scientist named Wuketitz. I don't know who that is. Anyway,
nobody does.
When he says when one considers the consequences of the Big Bang hypothesis, like Wuketitz, then man is reduced to absolute insignificance on this grain of dust, the Earth. He then quotes Wuketitz as opining about meaninglessness, which, what the fuck does that have to do with evolution? Nothing.
Yeah.
It turns out that the world of young Earth creationism, in the world of young Earth creationism, the word evolution isn't actually a piece of language. It's just a Pavlovian bell used to induce a certain sense of dread and unchecked rage.
Yeah.
It's code for these people hate Jesus.
Yeah, it's just a shibboleth, right? It doesn't actually refer to a process in nature.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Gitt then goes on to his next subheading, Scientific View, which I assume is another dog whistle so people will know that what he's writing about will be A, the sum total of what those damned heathens believe, and B, wrong.
Yeah.
I'm just going to read this for you because it is great. Here we go. Present astronomical knowledge recognizes no singular geometrical point in our universe, in accordance with evolutionary ideas. Consequently, there is no geometrical center and also no defined edge. No place in the universe has a special position. Okay.
Sure.
I read that 5 or 6 times, and then my brain inconspicuously dropped out of my butthole, and for a few seconds I converted to his way of thinking. When I managed to get my brain back into my head, I will not say how, I realized that the real point he was making was in that last sentence. He wanted to feel special. And that's when it clicked for me. The reason heliocentrism and evolution are the same thing to them isn't because it runs afoul of their stupid book. It's because it runs afoul of their feeling of specialness.
Yes.
If we're not the center of the universe, or if we're just another species on the evolutionary tree, then, oh God, we're not special. Basically, Gitt's final point is that science doesn't currently have a belief in a central point in the universe, but the Bible says that God made Earth first, and Earth is where Jesus came and died for our salvations, so checkmate!
That's a pretty solid argument.
Really, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that our first segment today kind of has some arguments there, but sure, Dan, go ahead.
Right, yeah, well, there you go. And I'm going to get to that too. But But that is genuinely it for Mr. Gitz, for Dr. Gitz.
That's it for
argument. That is as good as it gets. Here's his final summation, which I will read verbatim. These few cosmological considerations from the Bible clearly indicate that evolutionist ideas are completely foreign to Scripture. Okay.
Sure.
I mean, again, he has not mentioned anything to do with evolution in the entirety of his little essay, but all right. So there are still geocentrists in the world.
Okay.
But here's a fun twist I found, and it plays off of your stuff, Uncle Mark.
Tell me.
All that lunacy in Mormon cosmology that you seem to think was proof that Mormonism is crazy.
Yes.
Ha! You just shot yourself in the intellectual foot, my friend. You'll be so embarrassed.
No.
Yes, because our friends at that Mormon apologetics, air quotes, think tank, Fair Mormon, have news for you. The wrongness of the cosmology in the Book of Abraham actually proves that it's true. Bam! Oh my God. Mic drop. You see, in the 1800s, when Joseph Smith was pretending God had taught him how to read ancient Egyptian, everybody already knew about heliocentrism. But his Book of Abraham, if you read it correctly, kind of, sort of, maybe presents a geocentric view?
I feel the derp meteor careening towards the Earth as we speak. I'm going to get under the
coming
table.
For you. So, here's what we know. If Joseph Smith should have known about heliocentrism, but Book of Abraham presents geocentrism, that would have been the view of Abraham. So when God was teaching Abraham about the universe, he gave him false information which lined up with what he would have believed already, which obviously proves that... hang on, I had this all figured out a minute ago. I lost it. It's
My
gone.
head is caving in, as we speak.
Literally, that was a cute one. I was very... And I went to read the Book of Abraham to try and get at what they were seeing was the geocentric viewpoint there.
Uh-huh.
You tried to read some of it earlier, Mark.
Oh, it's just word salad. It is just
impenetrable.
Yeah.
You can't even tell what's a planet and what's a star
Right.
in that nonsense, let alone what anybody is talking about at all. I couldn't find geocentrism in it. I couldn't find anything. I really thought that it was saying somehow that the Earth was revolving around Kolob. I'm not sure, but I defy anyone to be able to read that and actually understand what the fuck he's talking about.
Yeah, it's impenetrable, and it's just so stupid. It's just I again, Fair Mormon. It's just such a sad fucking place to have to work. And
really
punch
is.
in every day. Oh, like you get assigned. Okay, today your job is tapers. Oh God. Okay.
I know as per Mitt Romney, the nets around the Fair Mormon building are to keep the people in.
Oh, well. Anyway, guys, God made us first, and we're the specialists, so suck it, Darwin. The end.
Suck at all the other planets.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good. It's been a very planetary show today. So I think enjoy that. Our astronomer friend Neil deGrasse Tyson, who's a big listener, I think he'll enjoy this.
Yeah, for sure.
NGT
and a patron. So
and he'll probably have to revise some of his beliefs based on what the way we've blown the doors off of this thing.
Well, that's what scientists do. Religion doesn't. Scientists do. So that's how it works. So all right, guys. Well, let's fly away. Woo-hoo.
Well, friends, that is it for this week's Pointless Show.
Hey, we'd love to hear from you, even though nobody cried. Send us an email at howtoheretic.com.
Or if you can afford the long distance from either the moon or the sun, and you are a Quaker, why don't you leave us a voicemail about it at 903-88-HOW-TO, which is 903-884-6986. I don't know why I paused there. I'm also on Twitter at howtoheretic for the moment.
And thanks and much love to our awesome patrons.
And thanks to Cody Layton, who is the center of our universe. for editing the
And
show. Sorry.
Yes, indeed. And thanks to all of you friends for tuning in.
Be safe. Wash your hands. Bye, friends.
Ta-ta!